I cut the engine and sat there in the Seabreeze Inn parking lot watching Courtney through the windshield. She was 28 now, wearing those oversized sunglasses she'd bought in Charleston last year, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail that swung with every sharp movement of her head. She kept jabbing at her phone screen, pacing in tight circles near the entrance, where her friends had already disappeared inside with their luggage. The late afternoon sun beat down on the asphalt, and I could see the frustration radiating off her in waves. My hands were still gripping the steering wheel, even though the truck wasn't moving. 65 years old, and I was hiding in a parking lot like some kind of coward. Patricia would have had words for me right now, strong words, the kind she used to deliver while folding laundry or stirring pasta sauce, never looking directly at me, but somehow seeing straight through to the part of me I was ashamed of. "Kenneth," she would have said, "what exactly did you think was going to happen?" I didn't have an answer then, sitting in that truck. I still don't. The plan, if I could even call it that, had formed 3 nights ago in my kitchen. I'd been eating leftover meatloaf, the kind Patricia used to make with the ketchup brown sugar glaze on top, except mine always came out dry no matter how carefully I followed her recipe. Courtney had called, and I'd actually felt my chest lift with hope when I saw her name on the screen. "Hey, sweetheart," I'd said, trying to keep the eagerness out of my voice. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something." Her tone was already apologetic, which meant bad news was coming. "About the beach trip next week." We'd been going to Myrtle Beach together every July since she was 13. It started the summer after her mother's first cancer scare, before the remission, before the brutal return, before the hospice bed in our living room. Just Courtney and me, and a week of miniature golf, seafood buffets, and walking the shoreline at sunrise. Even after she graduated from UNC Chapel Hill, even after she started her marketing job in Raleigh, we'd kept the tradition alive. "What about it?" I'd asked, though I already knew. I think maybe I should go with just my friends this year. You know, Amanda and Whitney and some people from work. It's just, Dad, no offense, but you're 65. You go to bed at 9. You don't drink. You spend half the time talking about interest rates and property taxes. My friends are trying to have fun, and it's just awkward. The meatloaf had turned to cardboard in my mouth. Awkward. You know what I mean. You're my dad. I love you. But this trip isn't really for you anymore. Maybe it's time we both did our own thing. I'd set down my fork very carefully, the way you handle something fragile that might shatter. "I see. Don't be like that. You can go to the beach anytime you want. You're retired. You have all the freedom in the world." Freedom. Right. The freedom to eat dry meatloaf alone. The freedom to watch Jeopardy with no one to compete against. The freedom to be too old, too boring, too much of a burden for my only child. "Sure," I'd said. "You're right. Have a great time, sweetheart." She'd hung up, sounding relieved. That's when the idea came to me. Not fully formed. Just a seed of something dark and petty that I should have recognized and pulled out like a weed. Instead, I watered it. I told myself it wasn't about revenge. It was about teaching her a lesson, showing her that the people she discards so easily are the same people who've been holding up her world all along. I had a connection at the Seabreeze Inn, Travis Hoffman, the owner's son, who I'd helped with his business taxes for years. One phone call, that's all it took. "Travis, I need a favor. My daughter has a reservation next week under Courtney Sullivan. Could you cancel it?" "Just hers. There's been a change of plans." He didn't ask questions. "Sure thing, Mr. Sullivan. Consider it done." I'd felt a grim satisfaction as I hung up. She wanted to know what it felt like to be excluded? Fine. Now she'd learn. Except sitting in that parking lot, watching her growing more desperate with each failed phone call, the satisfaction curdled into something that tasted like shame. Courtney finally lowered her phone and pressed her fingers to her temples. Even from this distance, I could see how small she looked, how young. When had I started seeing her as this adversary instead of my daughter? When had I decided that hurting her would somehow heal the hole Patricia's death had left in both of us? I reached for the door handle, then stopped. If I went to her now, I'd have to explain. I'd have to admit what I'd done. And what would that make me? Not the father who taught her integrity and kindness, not the man Patricia had loved, just a bitter old man who couldn't handle being told he wasn't needed anymore. My phone buzzed, a text from Courtney. "Dad, something crazy happened with my hotel reservation. They don't have me in the system. Have you heard of anything like this? Did you use a credit card that might have expired or something?" My stomach dropped. She thought I'd made the reservation. Of course she did. I'd handled all the bookings for 15 years. She was asking me for help, even now, even after pushing me away. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. I could fix this with one call to Travis. I could be the hero, sweep in and solve her problem, prove that she still needed me. But that would be manipulation too, wouldn't it? Creating a problem just so I could solve it? Before I could respond, another text came through. Never mind, I'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Like I was some fragile thing she had to protect. Like I was the child and she was the parent. I got out of the truck. The heat hit me immediately. That thick, humid coastal heat that makes your shirt stick to your back within minutes. I walked toward the hotel entrance. Still not sure what I was going to say. Still not sure if I was going to confess or just pretend I'd coincidentally shown up. Courtney had her back to me, talking to the desk manager, a young guy with bleached tips in his hair, who looked barely old enough to vote. I'm telling you, I made this reservation 2 months ago. I have the confirmation email right here. Ma'am, I understand your frustration, but our system shows the reservation was canceled 5 days ago. I don't know what else to tell you. Canceled by who? I didn't cancel it. The manager spread his hands helplessly. I'm sorry. We're completely booked. It's peak season. Maybe try the Sandpiper down the road? I already called. They're full too. Everything's full. That's when she turned and saw me standing there 10 feet away, near the rack of brochures for helicopter tours and dolphin cruises. Her eyes went wide. Dad, what are you doing here? My mouth went dry. I was in the area. You were in the area. She said it flatly, not quite a question. In Myrtle Beach, where you knew I was going to be, after I specifically told you I wanted to come alone. Courtney, did you follow me here? Oh my God, Dad, are you serious right now? Her voice was rising, attracting glances from an elderly couple checking in nearby. This is exactly what I was talking about. This is why I needed space. You can't just show up and... Your reservation got canceled, I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. She blinked. I know, I'm dealing with it. No, I mean... I took a breath. This was it. The moment where I could choose to be the man Patricia had believed I was, or the small, wounded creature I'd been becoming since she died. I canceled it. The parking lot seemed to go quiet. Even the seagulls stopped their screeching. You what? I called Travis Hoffman. I had him cancel your reservation. Just yours, not your friends. Courtney stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You sabotaged my vacation? You actually sabotaged my vacation because I didn't invite you? I wanted you to understand... Understand what? That you're controlling? That you can't handle me being an adult with my own life? Her voice cracked. Dad, Mom died 3 years ago. 3 years. And you've been acting like I'm supposed to fill the holes she left, like I'm supposed to be your entire world. And I can't. I have a job, I have friends, I have a life that doesn't revolve around taking care of your feelings. Every word was a stone thrown with perfect aim. They landed heavy in my chest. I didn't mean for you to take care of me, I said quietly. I miss you. I miss when we were close. I miss when I mattered to you. You matter to me, but not like this. Not when you're manipulating me and playing mind games and... She stopped, shaking her head. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you actually did this. Behind her, the automatic doors slid open and 3 young women emerged. Amanda, Whitney, and a brunette I didn't recognize. They were laughing about something, carrying fruity drinks with umbrellas in them, clearly having already settled into vacation mode. Amanda saw Courtney first, then me. Her smile faded. Court, everything okay? Everything's fine, Courtney said, her voice suddenly brittle and bright. Just a mix-up with my reservation. I'm gonna have to find another place to stay. What? No way, can't you just get another room here? They're full. Whitney exchanged a glance with Amanda. Well, you can crash with us. We've got 2 queen beds. It'll be tight, but... No, Courtney said sharply. No, I'll figure something out. You guys go enjoy the pool. I'll catch up. They hesitated, clearly sensing the tension, but eventually retreated back inside. Courtney waited until they were gone, then turned back to me. Her eyes were red-rimmed now, though no tears had fallen. I need you to leave, she said. Courtney, I mean it, Dad. Go home. Go back to Charlotte. I don't want you here. The finality in her voice was crushing. But what had I expected? That she'd forgive me instantly? That this would somehow bring us closer? I'd driven 6 hours to watch my daughter tell me to leave. I'd sabotaged her trip to prove a point that only made me look pathetic. And now I was standing in this hotel parking lot, the sun beginning its descent toward the ocean, realizing that I'd taken the last good thing between us and set it on fire. "Okay," I said. "Okay, I'll go." I started to turn away, then stopped. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I was hurt and I was stupid and I was wrong. Your mother would be ashamed of me." Courtney's jaw tightened, but she didn't respond. I walked back to my truck, got in, and sat there for a long moment. Through the windshield, I could see her still standing in the same spot, arms crossed, staring at nothing. Then she pulled out her phone again and made another call, probably trying hotels in Charleston or Georgetown, anywhere she could salvage what was left of her week. I should have started the engine. I should have driven home and let her have the space she'd asked for. That would have been the decent thing to do. Instead, I pulled out my own phone and called Travis. "Hey, Mr. Sullivan, what's up?" "That favor I asked for," I said, watching Courtney pace in circles again. "I need to undo it, and I need one more thing." "Sure, what do you need?" I told him. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "You sure about this?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm sure." 15 minutes later, Courtney's phone rang. I watched her answer it, watched her expression shift from exhausted frustration to confusion to something I couldn't quite read from this distance. She listened for a long time, said a few words, then hung up. She stood there perfectly still, staring at her phone screen. Then she turned and looked directly at my truck, even though the windshield was tinted and there was no way she could see me clearly from that angle. But somehow, she knew. She started walking toward me. My heart hammered against my ribs as she approached. She stopped just outside my driver's side window, and I rolled it down. "The manager just called," she said. Her voice was controlled, but barely. "He said there was a system error. My reservation is back, and somehow, miraculously, another room just opened up, a suite, an upgrade, completely free of charge." I didn't say anything. "He also mentioned that a generous gentleman made a donation to cover any inconvenience I might have experienced. A gentleman who wishes to remain anonymous." She tilted her head. "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" "I'm just glad it worked out," I said. "Dad." She closed her eyes. "You can't fix this with money. You can't fix this with grand gestures. That's not how this works." "I know." "Do you?" "Because it feels like you keep trying to buy your way back into my life instead of actually listening to what I'm telling you." She was right. Of course she was right. I'd thrown money at the problem. First by canceling her room, then by paying for an upgrade. Like that would somehow communicate what words couldn't. Like love could be measured in hotel suites and anonymous donations. "You're right," I said. "I'm sorry. I'll go." I reached for the ignition, but Courtney put her hand on the window frame. "Wait," she took a shaky breath. "The room they're giving me, the suite. It has 2 bedrooms. I looked up at her. "I'm still mad at you," she said. "I'm really, really mad at you. What you did was manipulative and wrong, and honestly, kind of unhinged. I know. But you drove 6 hours, and you admitted what you did, which I know wasn't easy, and Mom always said..." She trailed off, blinking rapidly. "Mom always said that family means showing up even when it's hard. Even when you've screwed up. Even when you're too old and boring and embarrassing." A lump formed in my throat. "One condition," Courtney said. "You have to promise to give me space when I ask for it. No guilt trips, no manipulation. And tomorrow, you're having dinner with me and my friends, and you're going to be normal and pleasant and not talk about tax brackets. I can do that. And you're going to talk to someone, a therapist, a grief counselor, someone, because this..." She gestured vaguely between us. "This isn't healthy, for either of us." "Okay," I said, "I promise." She stepped back from the truck. "Room 307. 3rd floor. I'll meet you up there in 20 minutes. I need to tell Amanda and Whitney what's going on." I nodded, not trusting my voice. As she walked back toward the hotel, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. Patricia's voice echoed in my head, clearer than it had been in months. "You almost lost her, Kenneth. Don't waste this second chance." I wouldn't. Whatever it took, however long it took, I'd find my way back to being the father Courtney needed. Not the one who needed her to need him, but the one who loved her enough to let her grow, even if it meant growing apart. I grabbed my overnight bag from the back seat and headed inside, the ocean breeze carrying the smell of salt and sunscreen and something that felt almost like hope. Room 307 was nicer than anywhere I'd stayed in years. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the beach, where families were packing up their umbrellas and boogie boards as the sun dipped lower. The suite had a small kitchenette, a living area with a pull-out couch and 2 separate bedrooms. I put my bag in the smaller one and stood there feeling like an intruder in my own daughter's vacation. When Courtney arrived, she didn't say much, just kicked off her sandals, grabbed a water bottle from the mini fridge, and disappeared into her bedroom. I heard the shower running a few minutes later. I sat on the couch and stared at the ocean, trying to figure out how I'd become this person, someone who sabotaged his own daughter out of loneliness and spite. Patricia and I had raised Courtney to be independent, to think for herself, to build a life that didn't require anyone's permission. We'd celebrated when she got into Chapel Hill. We'd beamed with pride when she landed her first real job. We'd taught her that needing help wasn't weakness, but demanding to be needed was. So when had I forgotten all of that? The shower shut off. 20 minutes later, Courtney emerged in fresh clothes, her hair damp and pulled into a bun. She sat in the armchair across from me, tucking her legs underneath her. "We should probably talk," she said. "Yeah." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Through the window, I could hear the distant crash of waves, the laughter of teenagers playing volleyball on the beach. "When Mom died," Courtney finally said, "I didn't know how to help you. You were just gone, like you were there physically, but emotionally you disappeared. And I was grieving too, but I felt like I had to hold it together because you were falling apart." I opened my mouth, but she held up a hand. "Let me finish. I'm not blaming you for grieving. I'm just saying, I felt like I lost both parents that year, and I had to figure out how to be an adult on my own, without either of you. I had to learn how to do my taxes, how to negotiate a raise, how to handle a breakup, all the stuff you and Mom would have helped me with, and I did it. I figured it out, and it made me realize I was stronger than I thought." "You are strong," I said quietly. "You're so much stronger than I ever was at your age. But then you retired, and suddenly you wanted back in. You wanted to be involved in everything. You'd call me 3 times a day. You'd offer to drive to Raleigh to help me grocery shop. You'd get hurt if I didn't answer right away. And I know you were lonely, Dad. I know you missed Mom. But I felt like I was drowning in your grief on top of my own." Each word was a mirror held up to my behavior over the past 3 years. I saw myself clearly for the first time, not as the devoted father staying connected to his daughter, but as the needy parent who'd made her responsible for his emotional well-being. "I didn't see it that way," I said. "I thought I was just being a good dad, being present." "You were being present for you, not for me." She picked at a thread on the armchair. "When I told you I wanted to come here without you, it wasn't because you're old or boring. It was because I needed to remember who I am when I'm not managing your feelings. Does that make sense?" It did. God help me, it did. "I'm sorry," I said, and this time I meant it in a way I hadn't before. Not sorry I got caught, not sorry for the consequences, but genuinely sorry for the burden I'd placed on her. "You shouldn't have had to carry that." Courtney's eyes were wet now. "I miss her too, you know, every single day, but I can't be her replacement. I can't be your wife and your daughter at the same time." "I know, you're right, and I'm going to get help. Real help, I promise." She nodded, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "Okay, good." We sat in silence again, but this time it felt different, less hostile, more like we were 2 people trying to find their way back to each other across a chasm that had opened slowly, almost imperceptibly, over years. "You hungry?" Courtney asked eventually. "Starving. There's a seafood place down the boardwalk. Amanda texted that they're heading there for dinner around 7. You're still invited if you want, but Dad, I'll be on my best behavior, I promise." She gave me a small smile. "We'll see." The restaurant was one of those casual beach places with plastic baskets of fried shrimp and hush puppies, red and white checkered tablecloths, and a deck overlooking the water. Amanda, Whitney, and their friend Erica were already there when we arrived, sitting at a round table near the railing. Amanda spotted us first. "Hey, you made it, and Mr. Sullivan? Wow, okay, this is unexpected." "Is it weird that he's here?" Whitney whispered to Courtney, not nearly as quietly as she probably intended. "It's fine," Courtney said, sliding into a chair. He's only staying tonight, then he's heading back tomorrow. I took the seat between Courtney and Erica, trying to look relaxed and normal, and not like a 65-year-old man who'd crashed his daughter's vacation after sabotaging it first. The conversation started awkwardly. The girls, women, I reminded myself, talked about their jobs, their terrible bosses, their dating disasters. I mostly listened, occasionally laughing at the appropriate moments, trying not to offer unsolicited advice like I usually did. Then, Whitney asked what I did for a living, and before I could stop myself, I launched into an explanation of tax code changes from the 1990s. I saw Courtney's face tighten. Anyway, I said, cutting myself off, that's probably not very interesting dinner conversation. Actually, I have a question, Erica said. She was younger than the others, maybe 25, with bright red hair and a nervous energy. I just started freelancing as a graphic designer, and I have no idea how to handle quarterly taxes. Like, do I really have to pay them 4 times a year? That seems insane. I explained estimated taxes, deductions for home office space, the importance of keeping receipts. Erica pulled out her phone and started taking notes. Amanda asked about retirement accounts. Even Whitney, who'd seemed the most skeptical of my presence, wanted to know if she should itemize or take the standard deduction. Courtney watched this with an expression I couldn't quite read. Not angry exactly. Something softer. Your dad's kind of a genius, Erica said to her. Yeah, Courtney said quietly. He is. After dinner, the younger women wanted to check out a beach bar with live music. Courtney looked at me. You're probably tired. I am, I admitted. But you should go. Have fun. I'll head back to the room. You sure? Positive. I brought a book. She hesitated, then gave me a quick hug. Thanks, Dad, for dinner, for being normal. It's a low bar, but I'll take it. I walked back to the hotel alone, the boardwalk still crowded with tourists and street performers. The ocean was dark now, just a rhythmic rushing sound beyond the lights. In the distance, I could hear the live band starting up at the bar, some cover of a Jimmy Buffett song. Back in the suite, I stood at the window and watched the moonlight on the water. Patricia and I had honeymooned in Myrtle Beach back in 1982. We'd stayed at a rundown motel that's probably been demolished by now, spent our days walking the beach and our nights planning the future we'd build together. A house in Charlotte, kids, at least 2, maybe 3. Careers that would give us stability and purpose. We'd gotten most of it. The house, Courtney, the career. But life had also taken things we'd never agreed to give up. Patricia's health, time. The easy closeness that comes before grief teaches you that nothing lasts forever. I'd been so focused on holding on to what remained, my relationship with Courtney, that I'd been crushing it in my grip. My phone buzzed. A text from Courtney. Having fun. Don't wait up. And Dad, I'm glad you're here. I read it 3 times, then set the phone down and opened the book I'd brought. Some thriller I'd bought at the airport months ago and never started, but I couldn't focus on the words. Instead, I thought about what I'd tell the therapist Courtney wanted me to see. I'd tell them about Patricia, about the hospice bed in our living room and the morphine drip and the way she'd squeezed my hand the day before she died and whispered, "Take care of our girl." I'd tell them how I'd interpreted that as never let her go, when maybe she just meant love her the way she needs to be loved. I'd tell them about the loneliness that felt like drowning, about eating dry meatloaf in an empty house, about watching Jeopardy and knowing all the answers but having no one to impress. I'd tell them I didn't know how to be Kenneth Sullivan without Patricia beside me, that for 43 years I'd been someone's husband, and then for 28 years someone's active father, and now I didn't know who I was supposed to be. But I'd also tell them about tonight, about Courtney letting me stay, about helping Erica with her taxes and making the table laugh with a story about an audit gone hilariously wrong, about remembering, for just a few hours, that I had value beyond what I could provide to my daughter. The door opened around midnight. Courtney came in quietly, probably thinking I was asleep. I heard her pause when she saw the light still on in the living room. "Hey," she said, leaning against the doorframe. "Good book? Honestly? Haven't gotten past page 10. She smiled and came to sit on the couch beside me. She smelled like coconut sunscreen and salt air. "Erica wouldn't shut up about you. She wants your business card." "I'm retired." "I told her. She said she'd pay you in cookies." Courtney pulled her knees up to her chest. "You were really good tonight, at dinner. You listened. You didn't dominate the conversation. You were just present, in a good way. I'm trying. I know. She rested her head on my shoulder, something she hadn't done since she was a teenager. I'm trying too, to be patient, to remember you're going through something hard. We sat like that for a while, watching the ocean through the window, not needing to fill the silence with words. Mom would have loved this, Courtney said eventually. You and me figuring our stuff out. She was always better at this than either of us. She was better at everything. Not everything. You make a mean pancake breakfast, and you can parallel park like nobody's business. I laughed. High praise. I mean it though. You're a good dad. Even when you're being crazy and manipulative, it comes from love. I know that. I just need you to express it in less unhinged ways. Deal. She yawned. I should sleep. We're doing parasailing tomorrow morning, and apparently I need to be coherent enough to sign a waiver that says I won't sue if I plummet to my death. That sounds safe. You can come watch if you want, from the beach, like a normal, non-controlling parent. I'd like that. She stood, stretched, then paused. For what it's worth, Dad, I don't think you're too old. I never thought that. I just needed to figure out who I am separate from you. From Mom, from the family we used to be. And have you? Figured it out? Getting there. She headed toward her bedroom, then stopped in the doorway. Hey, Dad? Yeah? I love you. Even when I'm mad. Even when I need space. That doesn't change. My throat tightened. I love you too, sweetheart. She disappeared into her room, and I sat there alone, feeling something shift inside me. Not fixed. I wasn't naive enough to think one good evening erased years of unhealthy patterns. But lighter, somehow. Like a door had opened that I didn't know was locked. I thought about Travis, who I'd call tomorrow to thank properly. About the therapist I'd look up when I got home. About the volunteer opportunities at church I'd been ignoring, because I was too wrapped up in my own misery to think about serving others. Patricia's voice came to me again, not sad this time, but warm. See, you're still here. You still matter. Now stop wasting time feeling sorry for yourself and go live. The next morning, I stood on the beach in my khaki shorts and button-down shirt, the only beach attire a 65-year-old accountant from Charlotte owns, and watched Courtney get strapped into a parasailing harness. She was laughing with Amanda, their hair whipping in the wind, looking so much like her mother in that moment that it physically hurt. But it was a good hurt, the kind that reminds you that you love someone worth missing. The boat pulled away from shore, and Courtney rose into the air, her delighted scream carrying across the water. I shielded my eyes against the sun and watched her soar higher and higher until she was just a bright spot against the blue sky. Whitney appeared beside me holding a frozen lemonade. She's brave. I could never do that. She gets it from her mother. Mr. Sullivan, Whitney turned to look at me. Can I ask you something? Sure. How do you know when it's time to let someone go, like when holding on is doing more damage than good? I thought about that, about canceled hotel reservations and desperate phone calls and 3 years of clinging so hard I left bruises. You know when it starts to feel like drowning, I said. Both of you. When love starts to look like control and care starts to look like burden, that's when you know? She nodded slowly. Yeah, that makes sense. We stood in comfortable silence, watching Courtney circle over the ocean. Eventually, the boat began reeling her back in, lowering her gently toward the water until her feet skimmed the surface. When she got back to shore, soaked and exhilarated, she ran straight to me. Did you see? Did you see how high I went? I saw. You were amazing. I want to do it again. Can we do it again tomorrow? I won't be here tomorrow. Remember, I'm heading back today. Her face fell slightly. Right, yeah, I forgot. But, I said carefully, maybe next year if you want. We could come back, just us, or with your friends, whatever you prefer. No pressure. Courtney studied my face, looking for the catch, the guilt trip, the manipulation. When she didn't find it, she smiled. Yeah, I'd like that. Next year. It's a date. I packed up my truck around noon. Courtney walked me out to the parking lot, barefoot and wrapped in a beach towel, her hair still dripping. Drive safe, she said. Text me when you get home. I will. And Dad? Make that appointment with a therapist. Don't just say you will and then forget about it. I won't forget. She hugged me tight and I held on just long enough, then let go. Love you, sweetheart. Love you too. I climbed into the truck and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I watched Courtney wave, then turn and walk back toward the hotel where her friends were waiting. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. The drive home took 6 hours. I stopped once for gas and terrible coffee and spent most of the drive thinking about the future instead of the past, about the grief support group I'd seen advertised at church, about the Habitat for Humanity project I could volunteer for, about what it would mean to build a life that wasn't centered entirely around my daughter. When I pulled into my driveway in Charlotte, the house looked different somehow. Still empty, still quiet, but not quite as suffocating. I brought my bag inside and stood in the kitchen, looking at Patricia's recipe box on the counter. Then I did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I opened it, pulled out her meatloaf recipe, and actually read the instructions instead of trying to recreate it from memory. Use 2 pounds of beef, I read aloud. Not 1. No wonder it's always dry. I could almost hear Patricia laughing. That evening I made the meatloaf properly. I set the table for 1, which didn't feel quite as pathetic as it had before. I ate slowly, savoring each bite, and when Jeopardy came on, I called out the answers to the empty room because I felt like it. My phone buzzed during Final Jeopardy. A photo from Courtney, her and her friends at dinner, all of them grinning at the camera, holding up plastic cups and a toast. The caption read, "To second chances." I texted back, "To second chances. Have fun. You deserve it." Then I put the phone down, finished my dinner, and allowed myself to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Not the absence of grief. That would always be there, a permanent guest in the house of my heart. But peace with the idea that love doesn't mean possession. That letting go isn't the same as losing. That being needed and being wanted are 2 different things, and the latter is so much better than the former. I was 65 years old, and I was learning to be myself again. It was terrifying and liberating in equal measure. And somewhere in Myrtle Beach, my daughter was parasailing into the sunset, confident that when she landed, I'd still be here, not hovering anxiously on the shore, but trusting her to find her own way back.